Hello, students. Today we will be starting with the undergraduate students and the first year's undergraduate students, semester one course curriculum. And in that, this whole syllabus is divided into 4 units, as I just want to tell you. And in these 4 units, it's divided into different kinds of topics and then the subtopics. So today I will start with unit 1, and in unit 1 the first subtopic is, as you can see, the meaning and definition of economics. So many of you must have done your intermediate with science, or many of you must have done it with commerce. So if you are from commerce, you must be knowing about economics to some extent. But if you are from science, then you must know that why we are studying economics, or what is the meaning and definition or importance of this subject which you have taken as your undergraduate subject. When we talk about economics, we can easily identify that economics is everywhere. Like in our daily life, it can be seen whether you are going to a market, whether you are asking the price of a product, whether you are spending on that consumption of yourself, whether you are depositing the money in the bank, whether you are making a budget for yourself and your family. Everywhere, like, you will see that these concepts are related to this subject, which is very important and which is called economics. Now the first question which comes in our mind is that how economics can be defined as a theory is the first concept here which we need to know before going into the detail of definition of economics. So theory is a set of principles and concepts, that facilitates understanding and explanation and perhaps make predictions. So why we study economics? Because it facilitates us to study the concepts, the principles, which can help us in explaining the phenomena, the explanation of the phenomena, and hereby deducing some kind of explanations through that. And that is why economics is also called a social science. Why it's called science? Because it's based on facts, figures, mathematical explanations. And why it's called social? Because it's related to the society. In science subjects, whether we call it physics, chemistry, you are doing the experiments in a closed lab. But when we talk about economics, we are doing the observation. We are trying to make the explanations through the people behavior, the consumer behavior, the producers behavior, and that is why they are called the whole society is a lab, and that is why this is called a social science. Now there is a famous economist which you must remember, R.G. Lipsey, Lipsey. According to Professor R.G. Lipsey, the essential components of a theory are. Now, what are the essential components of a theory, or why we can call economics as a theory? Is because, number one, a set of definitions. A set of definitions that clearly explain the variables used. So, for example, we will go into the detail of the definitions of economics, and then you will see that there are a different set of definitions which explain the set of variables used. The second component of a theory is a set of assumptions. You will come to know as we move to the syllabus, that every theory, whether we talk about marginal utility theory, whether we talk about indifference curve technique, every theory of economics is based on a set of assumptions. And before following into the details of the theory, we have to assume certain things. And as soon as we relax those assumptions, the whole theory remains invalid. So that is why there has to be a set of assumptions to prove that the theory is valid. Thirdly, we have to have a set of hypotheses. Hypothesis, as we know, are preconceived, explanations. So there has to be a set of hypotheses and about the behavior of the variables. And number 4, the predictions. On the basis of the hypothesis, we make a set of predictions. For example, if COVID-19 is a spread, then we make the prediction that in the near future, the education sector, the health sector is going to be affected. So that is a kind of set of predictions which we make. And finally, testing of predictions is being done. Whatever we are predicting, whether they are going to be true or whether they are going to be false, that is called the testing of predictions. So these are the 5 elements which Professor R.G. Lipset called about in the theory of a discipline. Now, the meaning of economic theory. When we talk about the economic theory, some explanations or some definitions follow to explain the economic theory. Economic theory has to be, differentiated from the scientific theory in a way. Why? Because there are large number of, tools of analysis when we talk about economic theory. Or when we talk about scientific theory, there is a limited, closed lab and closed set of experiments. So, you are doing a controlled variable behavior in that scenario. But when we talk about economic theory, then the variables are too many, the tools are so many which you can use. And there is a distinction which you must remember between good economic theory and bad economic theory, which Milton Friedman and Lipset and Samuelson, these are some of the big economists who talked about economic theory. So you can remember these names: Milton Friedman, Samuelson economics, and Lipset and Keynes. They are all economists who talked about bad economic theory or the good economic theory. So you must know the distinction between them, that after testing a theory only, we can say that whether a theory is valid or whether a theory is refuted, or it can be, made against it. So this is one of the distinctions which you must know as the student of economics, that economic theory can be bad and economic theory can be good, depending upon the predictions which follow through the economic theory, that whether they stand true or whether they stand false. Now, after this, we come to the definition part, that what is economics. When we talk about the definition part, the obvious question is, what is economics? Now, before going into the definition, you can, just give a background about the stages of economic growth. That how the human beings evolved, how the civilization took place, how the man's needs evolved, and that will bring us to the definition of economics. What happened was, as you must have all studied about history and Paleolithic age, Neolithic age, so you can relate to that. What firstly, we can say there was a first stage of economic growth. So you can divide it into 3 parts: first stage, second stage, and third stage. The first stage of economic growth was the stage where the needs of the man was very limited, and all the needs he could satisfy by himself, and he was not dependent upon anybody else. So that was, in brief, the first stage of economic growth. And that is why, since he could satisfy all his needs by himself, he didn't need any kind of discipline, any kind of mode to facilitate his transactions. Now, slowly, what happened? His needs increased. And as his needs increased, he started searching for any other person who could satisfy his need, and in return, he can give his commodity to him. And that was called the barter system. Barter system, the goods to goods exchange. Like, suppose the person in question had wheat and he wanted rice. So what he will do, he will search for a person who has rice and who is ready to take wheat in return, and that way both the people will have wheat and rice both. So that was called goods to goods exchange or barter system, and that is what is known as second stage of economic growth. But then there were some problems which arose through the barter system. For example, uh, like if I have wheat and I don't want rice, then in that case the exchange will not take place, because I don't have any other person in the economy who could satisfy my needs. So that was called the double coincidence of wants. That means whatever want I have should match with the want which the other person has. Otherwise, the exchange will not take place. The second inconvenience or the difficulty in the barter system was that if suppose I have a cow and I want to exchange it with the sugar. Now, in that case, 1 kg of sugar is equal to how much of cow? That was a question, because if we divide the cow, then automatically the utility of the whole cow will be disappearing. So that is also, another problem there. Then a common measure of value was not there, because, as I said, 1 liter of milk is equal to how many kg of sugar, or 1 kg of sugar is equal to how many liters of milk. So there are different units of measurement of different commodities, and that is why there is no common measure of value, and that also became another problem in the barter system. So keeping in mind these difficulties of the barter system, again, the economists or the people started searching for an alternative, and there came a medium of exchange commonly known as money. And money became the most popular medium of exchange, which brought us to the third stage of economic growth, which is called money economy. That means, if I have sugar and I want to have milk, then in that case I will sell it in the market, I will acquire money, and through that money I will buy the sugar. So that is how the money came to be known as the common medium of value or common measure of exchange in that term. So before talking about what is economics or the definition of economics given by different economists, it will be wise that you talk about the stages of economic growth. Now, when we talk about the definition part, the first economist who gave the definition of economics, or who was called the father of economics, was Adam Smith. Adam Smith is called the father of economics. And the definitions which he gave were categorized as wealth definitions, right? And wealth definitions, he wrote a book which was very famous, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations, where he talked about the economics as a science of wealth. And when you talk about this definition given by Adam Smith, then you say that the main points which were given in his definition were Now you talk about the main points of the wealth definition. The first point is that science of wealth. Economics is the science of wealth. That is the first point. That means wealth is given the primary importance. Wealth has the primary objective and humans are the secondary in his definition. That means all the economic activities were guided towards the acquisition of wealth. So this was another ground on which Adam Smith's definition was criticized, that wealth as the primary concentration or concern, and humans are the secondary concern. So that was the ground on which Adam Smith's definition was criticized or refuted. Then another point is that all the activities are guided towards the acquisition of wealth. So acquisition of wealth was very important. That means the person is not doing any activity for the welfare. For example, a doctor, the doctor will only see the patient if he is getting his fees or he is getting the wealth. He will not see a patient because he wants to serve that patient, or even if the patient is poor, he can see him and give him the medicine and talk about his welfare. So that kind of person will not be covered in the discipline of economics as per Adam Smith. So these are the points on which you can criticize Adam Smith's definition, that he restricted the scope of economics in a very limited manner. That means all the incomes earned by the mental services of a teacher, lawyer, doctor, or a judge could not be treated as economic activities. Only the activities which can provide the wealth will be covered under economics. So that is why his definition was criticized, and the main person who criticized Adam Smith's definition was Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall, who criticized Adam Smith on this basis, and he gave another category of definitions which was known as welfare definitions. Welfare definitions, and he just changed the concept of economics by saying that economics is the study of human welfare. That all the activities, it is the first point in his definition, which was given by Alfred Marshall, was that it is the study of human beings in the ordinary business of life. And the second point was that it includes both the people who are living in the society and who are living outside the society, but they are doing economic activity. For example, a saint, a monk who is living in a jungle, but he is also consuming to survive. So Marshall's definition was, the scope of Marshall's definition was more broadened than the Adam Smith's definition, because he included both the types of people, whether they live in the society or outside the society. Then he also talked about human welfare as the primary concern and wealth as the secondary concern. So that way, welfare definition of economics made economics a social or human science, and it emphasized that welfare and not wealth is the prime concern of economics. So he broadened the scope of economics. But then another set of definitions came in, which was given by Lionel Robbins. And these definitions were called scarcity definitions. Scarcity definitions. Lionel Robbins said about a very common phenomenon, that all the humans have unlimited wants. Like if one want is satisfied, then another want arises. If another want is satisfied, we have third want arising. So that is the human nature, that the wants are unlimited, and the resources to satisfy these wants are limited. For example, if you have 100 rupees in your pocket and you go to the market to buy the commodities, you want to buy everything in the market, but then you have only 100 rupees in the pocket. So you will have to, what you will have to do, your resources are limited and your wants are unlimited. So there comes the problem of scarcity or the problem of choice. Problem of choice means choosing between more urgent and less urgent wants. Which wants are most urgent, you will satisfy them first. There comes the role of prioritization. And the person who has the knowledge of economics will be better able to do it. Why? Because he knows that he will need to prioritize because his resources are limited and his wants are unlimited. Or if, and that comes us brings us to the concept of rationality. Rational consumer हम इसीलिए यूज करते हैं बिकॉज रैशनल कंज्यूमर वो व्यक्ति होता है जो कि माइंड से सोचता है कि नहीं, उसके रिसोर्सेज लिमिटेड है, इसलिए उसको जो वांट सबसे जरूरी है पहले वो उसको सेटिस्फाई करेगा, एंड देन इफ ही हैज द मनी लेफ्ट he will do the second, and then and so on. But if you are not rational, then you will haphazardly spend the money, and then ultimately you realize, oh my god, I wanted to buy this book but I have bought this thing which is not so urgent. So that is why economics is a science or a subject which talks about the scarcity definition or the problem of choice and gives us that kind of rationality. Now, the main features of Robbins' definition are, number one, there is a multiplicity of human wants. As I told you, that human wants are multiple. It's not that they are limited in number. And that's a human nature, that as soon as you have one want satisfied, the second want arises, or there is unlimited number of wants. The second point is, the means to satisfy human wants are limited. The resources to satisfy them are limited. Then another point is, the scarce resources have alternative uses. For example, if you talk about electricity, now electricity has so many alternative uses. You can the most urgent use of electricity is lighting up your house, the bulbs, the fans, and ACs and all that. But if you have electricity as in abundant supply, you can do the ironing of the clothes, you can put the heater on, you can put the induction on. So that way you have multiple alternative uses of a good, which is the resource in question. Then wants have varying intensity. Some wants are more intense, some wants are less intense. And that is why there needs to be a rational consumer who adjusts between scarce wants and scarce resources and unlimited wants. And that is why this is a common question which is asked in undergraduate examinations, that which is the most superior definition, or which is the best definition as per your perspective. So up till now, whatever we have discussed, we can conclude that Robbins' definition is superior to that of Marshall. Why? Because it is very close to reality. It is very close to human behavior, that we have more wants, multiplicity of wants, but we have scarce resources. And that is why every consumer confronts with the problem of choice as always. And that is why Robbins' definition is superior to that of Marshall. And then you can prove it by a table where you can write about the Marshall point and the Robbins point, and then you can prove the superiority of Robbins' definition over the Marshall's definition. That is how we come to the end of the definition aspect of economics. And then next class we will be proceeding with the second subtopic of unit 1. Thank you.